Today, our third hour, 第三节课, we will talk about a tutorial deep learning. I already put on the FTP site, so you should download. The third hour, we talk about deep learning. I will use the other lecture. It's about tutorial, so you can download it. We'll continue our computer vision. So today we will talk about two topics. One is the PCA and LDA. We talk about detection, right? Detection tracking with optical flow, and then we talk about recognition. And in the recognition, okay, LDA is very important. For recognition, it's kind of a classification. I talked about before is detection is two kind of classes. Detection is a foreground and background. Face detection is detect face. Also try to separate the face. We try to extract segmentation, try to extract the foreground pixel and background foreground object. So for the detection, it's a 1 to 2. 1 to 2 discrimination. But for recognition, it's 1 to many. Many classes, and you try to classify which one. Okay. Sometimes recognition 1 to 1 is meaning you pick up one unknown one, and you try to from this one you try to classify to doing your cluster your classes and try to do the classification. But before that one, so classification also we call discrimination, discrimination. But before talking about that one, your space original input information include texture, shape, color, or RGB plus D. Only 4 kind of input. Your input information has a texture, original red or gray value texture. Second, shape. Shape is like a contour, but like a gradient edge detection. So second shape. The third is a color. Color is RGB. But sometimes color domain will transfer from RGB to HSV or YCRCB for compression. The fourth one is the RGB plus D. So your input information has only 4 kind of information. 输入的那个资讯只有4种，就这4种。Okay, so after you input it, okay, and before we directly input a neural network to classification. I mean, before the traditional AI, for example, neural network, we call raw data. Those are raw data input neural network for classification. Okay, that's one kind of classification. However, people feel if we can extract the important features or good feature, when we do the tracking, we talk about good feature. So people find if we can extract the important or good feature, like a SIFT, and then input the neural network, the result is better. Okay, so when we do the encoder for the deep learning, let's extract the important information and input to the classification, okay, and or mark NLP, neural network, and we got a better result. Okay, so this lecture will include discrimination. And discrimination is classification, 2 kind of classification. One is linear, the other non-linear. Linear just data separate. So when I next lecture talk about LDA linear discrimination, is linear discrimination. The supportive vector machine SVM is non-linear discrimination. Okay, but SVM, the other thing is they have a kernel function, so they project. We said we project the kernel space to higher space, because in any sample in the low dimensional space, they are more, I mean, they were close to each other. But when you project to high dimension, they become sparse, they can separate. So easy to do the discrimination. However, when you project to high dimension, okay, the mathematics getting complicated. It's not easy to image. 因为你如果投影到高维度，就很难去想象空间分布。So the other way, we project to the low dimension. So PCA is the way from the original space. We try to project to low dimension and do discrimination. And your activation function, we know that kind of activation function is the same. We call domain knowledge of space. Domain is space. So domain knowledge also called space. We transfer from this space to the other space, and easy for you to do the discrimination. 空间转换. So PCA is one kind of a space transformation before you do discrimination. I say again, from raw data, before we do classification or discrimination, we try to extract the important information. That's convolution. We do convolution. So each time we do convolution, right? And then at the meantime, we try to transfer from the current space to a better space, either higher dimension or lower dimension. That is easy to do discrimination. And PCA is one method to transfer from original space to lower dimensional space. That's PCA. Kernel function is project to a high dimension for discrimination. So one is PCA. High dimension SVM, supportive vector dimension. SVM has one weakness, is it just project one time and project very high dimension. We don't know how high it is. It's not too easy to image. So what's the deep learning can do? Deep learning, that's not a good way. Deep learning is actually each time he just transfer to the other space, but only transfer a little bit. I will talk about this one in the third hour. 今天的 deep learning 那边我可以讲这个，就是为什么要 activation function， 就是做空间转换。那我讲 deep learning they have many layers because each time they just transfer to a little bit dimension change, and then there are many layers. So each time transfer a little bit and then a little bit. Each time they do the discrimination. Okay, so before talking about those deep learning things, we back to PCA. So PCA is very important. It's an amazing thing. 它这个是一个在电脑视觉是一个很重要的。那再从这边讲。So in computer vision we use PCA. Okay, but in deep learning, PCA will corresponding to GAN. GAN. And I will also talk about GAN in my lecture in the third hour. So GAN actually include no matter PCA or GAN, the same concept is encoder decoder. They're encoder and decoder. That's a GAN or PCA. But for the metaverse, 就是元宇宙，实际上都在玩 GAN 的东西，不是全部啦，但是会用比较大量的 GAN 的东西。所以因为为什么？因为元宇宙最主要是 AR 跟 VR 来 ，AR and VR。So for AR, you combine virtual things and reality things. But for the AR, the one important thing you need to find the ground. 要找到那个平一个面 让东西可以站一个基准。So for the AR, the most important thing is you need to find the ground. So like the calibration, when we do the calibration, we need a chessboard. That's it. When you put a chessboard on the ground, that you can calibrate. And for the VR, it's virtual reality, right? So you complete virtual things. So I said, for the virtual reality, okay, they still have a long way to go. But for the AR, it will happen right now. VR 事实上还有很长的路要走，因为很多很不方便的事情要解决，把它戴那个 goggle 不方便啊，戴久了会头晕啊，这些都不方便。而且 VR 一个重点是内容 content。内容就玩 game， 你 game 怎么设备多好，重点是你要吸引你去玩就那内容。那一样那个 metaverse the same thing. Why those company want to involve this one? Because still have a long way to go. And they announce and they start to go high. 所以那实际上 VR 我觉得还有一段时间要走，但是后面是 VR 的东西。Now, AI right now is already happened in our life. Okay, especially like you drive a car, 那个前置投影那个都是飞机上面那些都是，那是 VR。那我们的那个手机现在都有 3D camera, right? So you can do right now a lot of app or AR in your cell phone. Okay, so back to here. So GN is becoming important because GN can like a deepfake, right? They can simulate the virtual thing like a reality. Deepfake 已经可以做到这种程度了嘛？对。那这个我再讲一下。那 before we talk about PCA, one is because classification actually is kind of clusters. Classification is kind of a clustering. And clustering, if you do vector quantization, it's unsupervised learning. If you do the PCA, it's supervised learning. Supervised learning means you need to label it. Unsupervised learning is you don't need to label it. They'll do the cluster, but they don't know which cluster. For each cluster, they don't know which belong to which cluster. They don't know. Okay, and the other thing is PCA will relate to covariance matrix. So from covariance matrix, we use a singular value decomposition (SVD) to do factorization. 因式分解 factorization become one space become UWV. 3 factors 因式分解，把一个东西解成这三个，那这三个各有物理意义。So from original space, you transfer to eigenspace. So this eigenspace, this eigenvalue, this is rotation matrix. Okay, so what is this? So this is the affine transform. So PCA is affine transform because they include translation. We talk about that one is data and rotation and scaling. We talk about this one very soon. Okay, so I will explain to you why PCA is a Gaussian model, why it also has an affine transform. So why we need a PCA? What kind of situation we need a PCA? So for example, suppose we have 16 person, 16个人, 16 person. If you collect the data, and you try to recognize each person. So you have 16 person, and you collect your database is 16 person images. If you have 1 million person, your data has 1 million images inside. So when a new person come in, if you have a database of 1 million person, you try to recognize who is this novel person. and you need to compare 1 million times. You compare 1 million times. 你要比较100万次嘛，才办法 recognize. So that's inconvenient because suppose this is 255 by 255, so dimension 255 by 255. That's not good because the high dimension. And right now our image size is bigger, so become more higher dimension. And you need to compare 1 million times. So that's not good. In this one, suppose this is the other one. We do robot arm. Suppose we have a robot arm. Okay. Try to grab this object. Suppose you have four targets. 假如你只有四个物体 ，use robot arm to grab this one. Okay, but because you need to know the angle, so in this one wheel and then we rotate. It is light, different light. This camera here, and you rotate this one. So suppose we don't do rotation. Rotate 360 degree. Okay, and total suppose 8 degree we take one photon. Each 8 degree we take one. So total you have 45 images, just one target. And suppose you have 4 targets, this one, 4 targets. So each one you need to have 45 images and put on the database. So when a new target comes in, you need to take one and compare with those images. So those kind of calculation, you waste your time. So what can we do? We need to use PCA. And so what's a PCA? So suppose we said here, in this case, we have one target, right? In each target, we have a 45. We could have this one. 45 different kind of view angle. 把它转它去取它嘛，这样变成它的 data。Can we represent the physical meaning of this one？ 这代表什么物理意义？一个物体这样旋转可以代表什么意义？这里讲，我讲是 what's manifold mean? Sometimes you read the paper, they will talk about manifold. So what's the manifold? Actually is subspace. So what is this one? Talk about here. So here, suppose this one. 先讲物理观念。So suppose you have a total, right? This one. So suppose you have one target, and total have 4 targets. Each target you have collected 45 up rotation angles. This one. So you plus all together. So M will equal to 4 target times 9 times 5. So total 1. So this one equal to the other one. This eigenspace. This is our original space. We plus each image, this one image. Each image we plus together. So this data. So all the data we vector all the training data equal to what's this one? We can transfer original space, this called eigenspace. We transfer original, we take the photo, original space to eigenspace. So each one is eigenvalue times eigenvector. Eigenvector 1, eigenvector 2, until eigenvector n. So suppose original, this one, you have a 4 times 9 times 5, 就4乘45嘛，4乘45个影像。When you transfer to this space, you also have this is a vector 纬度，这也是4乘45，4乘45个纬的 eigen 的轴啦，是轴，每个轴，这是每个物体一个轴。 所以变成4乘45个轴，空间中一点，你可以直接转换过去。那这是物质不昧、能量不昧的物质不昧嘛？你转到这个空间，所以你原来有几个轴，你转到 eigenspace 就有几个轴。However, your weight here, your original your weight is 1. Right now, your weight is lambda. 这个式子是什么？也是我写的，自己写没有，然后没有看过人家这样写，是我写。这个就是我们讲的那个原来这里这个你原来的东西嘛，转到，然后这个 v 是可以转过来，这是 eigenspace， 这个是我从这里把，这是 covariance matrix， 这是那个vector 跟 matrix 方式写嘛，写成是这样写。但是我说任何的 ax equal to b can be linear combination， 实际上它是线性组合嘛。vector 跟 matrix 实际上是个线性组合的，相乘的线性组合就是这个。好，再来啊。So each object v is meaning this one can be factorized or can be linear combination by eigenvector times corresponding weight. This is total objects equal to this total thing in eigen. For each object, you can represent it by eigen times projection weight corresponding weight. 这样可以吗？这个很重要，这我写的，你有看过人家这样写？对或错，我认为是对的，因为这个为什么很重要？这样你懂吗？任何物体都可以线性组合回来，这样子。所以这是原来的物体影像等于变成 eigen 的影像。那反过来讲 ，eigen 影像经过不同的它身上对应的 weight 就变成这个。那 eigen 是 eigenvector 是什么？我们 we call eigen. If we do the face, we call eigen face. Eigen is this one. 这个你刚刚那4乘9 45这张影像，如果把它转成到 eigen 的时候，会变成这样子。就是像那个以前那种底片有没有？就这个，你有多少个影像出来，就是多少个 eigen 这样子。那后面这边有 eigen face， 这我们后面再讲。这个 eigen face 对不对？Original 16 images come eigen， 这 eigen face， 因为人脸嘛。我大概先讲一下这个，这个是什么？eigen 是什么 ？eigen PC is singular value decomposition. Singular value decomposition. What's the purpose for singular value decomposition? One purpose is factorization, 因式分解。The second purpose is try to extract important features. Extract important features. For example, this one. Why is a Gaussian model? Why eigen is a Gaussian model? When you learn the linear algebra， 你们以前学那个线性代数，我不知道你们老师有没有谈过，就我不晓得，我不知道谁教线性代数。当他教到 PCA 的时候，我那时候去学那个，就前面第1年在匹兹堡大学，然后我们老师，我每次那个博士去都去数学系嘛，修1年的 factorization。1年修完都搞不清楚他在讲什么，听不懂数学系老师在讲什么，很痛苦。每天在domain space domain norm，听完1年都搞不清楚，决定换老师，就跑去西研究去了。 那我们学长有人顺利毕业，有人就不顺利毕业。那时候老师为了要学那个 Web 小坡，所以我后面慢慢工作，慢慢想，目前想回来，哎，才知道，就我大学去工作，CMU 读完毕业去工作，才后来因为那时候小坡越来越红，我想原来为什么老师要我们学这个？第一个当然他不懂了，不懂就是派学生去牺牲，冲啊！发现多学长都倒下去了，不能冲，赶快退回来换逃兵，赶快换老师。但是有些学长这个冲就赢了的啊，所以有时候要学会求生存，苗头不对就换老师。好，那这个 eigen 什么意思？I say eigen is SVD is trying to extract important features. So if this phase, you'll find out this eigenphase is actually eigenphase. In the first one, you'll find the important feature is the eyes, in the 眼睛. So if this eigen image, but if you eigenvector, you'll find the component here. The component here have a higher value. So what is this one? This is we call attention. When you do the deep learning, right now, after several years, right now people start to talk about attention. ATTENTION, attention. What's attention? Important part, important feature. 现在才开始讲，为什么？我是讲说 deep learning 都是慢慢的把以前电脑视觉跟machine learning的东西慢慢搬过来，没有发展那么快。它发展很快，只是把那这个 so the first one you'll find out the first one they extract the eyes. Why? Because the first eigenvector was corresponding to the largest eigenvalue. Eigenvalue is the valence. Eigenvalue is valence. So your biggest valence is meaning this 16%. Between this 16%, the largest valence is eyes. That's meaning everybody's eyes is very different. Yes， 就是我们 valence 是我们变异性最大的。那 second one is the mouth， 这我的经验啊，就这样一直排下来。眼睛变异性，大家变异性最大，再是嘴巴、鼻子，眼睛加鼻子，眼睛加嘴巴。PCA 就这样把你萃取出来了。PCA 就会帮你把分开，帮你分析说这16个人哪些变异性最大，这样子。所以 PCA 有这个特性。好，我们再回到原来这边。这里这一张很重要。好，就是我刚刚讲的。So eigenvector 1 will correspond to this one. Sorry, eigenvector 1 will correspond to the largest eigenvalue 1. So you do the sorting, 你要把它排序后 you suppose eigenvalue 1 bigger than eigenvalue 2 bigger than eigenvalue 3, 你把它 sort. So first eigenvalue 1 will correspond in first eigenvector because this is the largest valence, because this is a 高序 model. PCA 是个高序 model. 这样子。好，我再继续讲。So eigenvector is an extraction of feature. Now, back to here. So how can we represent this one in space? 这个它的空间中的长成什么？在空间中你怎么表示？表示什么？表示类似这个东西，就是这个东西。这是什么东西？这就称为 manifold， 又称为 subspace。意思是说 ，for each target, the same target, you have different rotation. And for each point, this point, if this point you project to eigenspace, you will projection weight. 我刚刚讲，你任何物体嘛 project 到 eigenspace， 你就这个 projection weight。那 the first three， 这是因为我们只能看3D， the first three eigenvector 1, 2, 3， 一个 projection weight W1, W2, W3，so your point will be here。假设这00，这第一张这个，你把它投影到空间里面去，因为你如果取3维，就是 W1, W2, W3 的空间就一点在这里，它的值。那第二个点层在这边，这里总共有45个点，就会在这里。这个就代表你这个物体在空间的物理现象。这叫 space subspace， 所以一个物体在空间就有一个 subspace one subspace。So different object. Sorry, next page 12. Different object, a shape, this shape in the subspace or difference. If the same object, this is curve or look similar. 这样子。越相似物体在这个空间的轨迹就越相似。那任何一个点 project 到这个 space， 这是 eigenspace one eigenvector 1 eigenvector 2 eigenvector 3， 就这个 eigen。那 projection weight 你把这个值画上来。那相同的很类似物体就会越靠近。So they can do what? From this space they can do classification. So eigen have two purpose. One purpose is, so I said if an original this is 这有9嘛，4乘9乘5个空间，可你发现后面这里 eigen 对不起，后面这里 after several you will find here eigenvalue ways you can ignore those information. So you can do dimensionality reduction， 也做空间的减少。你原来空间有4 ，the original space 有 dimension 4 times 9 times 5， 有这么多物体。After you project to the eigenspace, you'll find out probably after 20 eigenvector 20, the eigenvalue is very small. What's the eigenvalue very small is meaning the variance is very small. Variance very small is meaning we are the same. 就是后面萃取的这些资讯的 eigenvalue 都很小。eigenvalue 很小是什么？是这些资讯都很类似，不用理它。例如什么？就是我们这些皮肤啊，这个都不是很重要的。variance 小就没办法分开嘛，大家都一样啊，这些都不用理它了。So you can reduce probably here only 10 dimension. You ignore this one. 你本来有4乘9乘这么多东西转成4乘9乘的 eigen face, eigen object， 那因为后面的值都很小，大部分你重要值都被你萃取到前面去了，那你后面可能只要取前面10个就好了，后面全部忽略掉了。那意思是说 so meaning if you only take the maximum 10 eigenvalue correspond to 10 eigenvectors, that's meaning for any object you project to the 10 dimension eigenvector, you have a 10 eigenweights, projection weights that can represent this projection weight can represent this target. 听得懂吗？ Original use this space, this one, suppose is 256 by 256。假设这张影像有256乘256嘛，那你要用那个 SAD or correlation normalized cross correlation 来做比较的话，你要这个每一个 pixel 都互相相乘，花太多时间。那我把这个影像 project to the eigenspace， 然后只取这个 eigen 里面就这个 eigen， 这个 eigen， 我只取前面的10个 dimension， 这个点前面10个，就每张影像就到这 icon 就会对应10个比重 weight， 这十维的 weight 就是你在这 icon space 里面的 projection weight， 代表你。所以我只要比这10个 dimension 就好了，我不用比256乘256这么多 dimension， 所以它可以把维度降低，做计算速度就很快。这 icon 可以做 dimensionality reduction， 这样你听懂了？这个听不懂后面就不会有。那这个在 GAN 里面就是 coding。I show you the GAN lecture。我这边讲慢一点，因为这个会跟元宇宙有关，所以我讲慢一点。OK， 我现在讲的是那个第3个小时的这个。I already teach you about GAN。code 编码这里 original one right this original space you do extraction and find code here 码在这里变30位，本来是28乘28位，变成30个 vector 就在这里编码。这个我刚刚讲的这编码，那再把这个码还原回来。所以 I try to right now I try to teach you is a GAN this one encoder decoder recover. But this is a network format. This is the original space. Mathematics 这原来的数学是非常好。这个要是 projection weight， 这个一定要懂，不然你元宇宙就没办法了，不懂元宇宙的东西，你是 GAN 的东西，那你的生活就很老实，因为 GAN 就是骗人的，你要做 fake 的东西骗人，那你越老实，他就不大会听不懂这个，我要奸诈一点。好，那我们再继续讲。那 what's the eigenvector? So eigenvector basically is a basis function， 它是一个基本的 basis function eigen。So what's the basis function? Basis function 最基本的 basis function 是什么 ？cosine sin。Eigen is a basis function, basis of image. What's the basis one is a cosine and sine. So that's a Fourier series, Fourier 的那个总分，就 Fourier series。所以我发现 Fourier series cosine theta right times weight plus sine theta times weight times cosine theta divided by 2 plus sine theta divided by 2， 2/sin theta 那些东西啊。所以 sin 跟 cosine 就这种水定量 combine 进去，那这就是 wavelets， 大那个小波都是 sin cosine 这些东西组。所以 when you do the signal processing, so any target, any signal can be we say that factorized to the sine and cosine， 就任何的讯号都是从 sine 跟 cosine 组合而成的，叫小波。So what's the MPEG for? MPEG 压缩是什么？这里讲这跟 MPEG 有关。 MPEG 就是说在这里了 ，MPEG 在这里。Any image, right? Any image equal to, suppose this is a sine plus cosine. This is a sine sin theta plus cosine theta. 假设是 sin theta 加 cosine theta. This is sin theta divided by 2. This is cos plus cosine theta divided by 2. half sine half theta. 这下面就是 sin 四分之那个 theta 除以4，这样一直下去。那 so any signal or any image you can equal to this is suppose this is sine cosine. So this will compression. So this will compress the compression rate. 就你的压缩系数。So when your compression rate 压缩比 higher compression rate is meaning 压缩比越大 meaning you take just a few weights. If you have a compression rate is lower, you will keep more information, and then your coefficients will be. So your compression coefficient will be large. I say again, if you do compression, right, and your compression rate is low, 就压缩比小的话 that means you keep more information, so your compressed file will be bigger, take a lot of space. If your compression rate is high, it's meaning your space will become small. That's meaning you lose a lot of information. So your weight will be smaller. 对不对？你压缩比越大，就是压缩越多嘛，那你的系数就比你保留的系数比较少，那你的影像，你的那个占的空间就比较压缩的影像占的空间比较小，反过来就比较大嘛，这个就跟这个有关了，一模一样。So basically eigenvector is a basis function. The basic basis function is sine cosine is Fourier series. The signal processing 就这样，我这边讲的是这个意思。那所以这些东西 when the compression, right? So when I compress, I only need to save the compression coefficients. Compression coefficients meaning compression weight. 我只把系数存下来就好了。And then when I try to recover, the first thing is that my notebook, my PC need to have a loss in basis function, loss code. So when you a player, you try to see the video, right? You need to a player. The player, they will tell you need to have an encoder and decoder. 你要那个解码器，那个解码器就是你刚刚讲的sin cosine那些东西。那你如果没有那个解码器，你就没办法看那个电影了。为什么？因为你的压缩档都是系数，就是你压缩，那系数就是怎么讲？系数就是 projection weight。那你没有那些那个 encoder 那些解码器，你就没办法恢复回来，就这个意思。所以你要装那个解码器，它才办法帮你解回来，这样子，就这样。这一模一样的东西，说 PCA 也在做压缩用的 ，Web 也在做压缩用的 ，Icon 在做压缩用的，这样子。那可以哈，那我就继续讲，因为这个跟 GN 有关。好，那这个你自己看。那这一页我最主要讲这一页要讲刚刚，so I have a little bit conclude. So PCA is here. Origin is a covariance matrix. A. What's covariance? What's the difference between covariance and correlation? Covariance meaning you need to subtract the mean value. Correlation you don't have this one, or the mean value is equal to 0. Covariance, variance, 然后把自己这样子说，它有个平均值。So if you subtract to the mean Gaussian mean value and then do single value decomposition become UWVT. So because you have mean value, you have eigen value is meaning variance. So this is a Gaussian model. And Gaussian model for the eigenspace, you have mean value, you have a standard deviation, you have variance. Variance equal to your eigenvalue. Also, it's an affine transform because you have a translation and you have a rotation. U is what? Eigenvector. Eigenvector is the rotation vector. You also have the other rotation vector v. So you can transfer, you can shift v to here. 你把这个 v 用过来，意思是什么？意思是说，原来的这个空间 ，after you rotate, you become eigenspace. 这个 turn, you shift this turn to the other side. It's meaning original space. You do rotation of v, become new eigenspace, eigenvector. So that's meaning between original space and the eigenspace, they exist 存在一个 rotation v， 所以它会，所以现在是什么叫 eigen 就是这样 ，eigen is meaning original space here, right? And your new space is here. So that means you do m is a shift, and you do rotate, become new eigenspace. So this original space, this new space. So you have a translation m and rotate this new eigenspace. So why we need eigenspace? I'll talk about right away. So I say again, any eigenspace in this Gaussian model is an affine transform, and the scaling is equal to variance. Variance 是你的 scaling 的大小。So when you do the Gaussian model， 我们在做 Gaussian model 的 Gaussian model exponential term， 右边那个 exponential term，you need to divide it SXD you need to divide it to 那个 variance. Why you want to divide it by variance? Because you want to normalize the scaling term. 高勋的指数部分是不是 sum square difference？ 两个相减取平方嘛 ，sum square difference。那 sum square difference 父母不是要除一个那个 covariance matrix？ 为什么要除以 covariance matrix？ 是因为你要让每个空间的单位一样。那 covariance matrix， 对不对？那个 covariance matrix 就是那个 scaling term， 就是 eigenvalue。你让每个空间的单位都一样。好，所以这个包含 affine transform， 包括 translation、rotation、scaling。这个好像有写错，知道改掉。这里有个地方写错。好，这样可以啊，这我帮你写，你自己再看一下。这是我讲都是物理意义啊。好，那我先大概讲时间关系，时间到了。我待会会跟你讲为什么我们要做 PCA。那我会用这个例子来讲，就我们刚刚讲的，这是 page 35。我讲 the original space and new eigenspace. So this new space has a translation rotation. 那 translation 跟 rotation， 我待会会讲这个空间转换。那为什么要讲这个？因为你会用到元宇宙，你是生活在元宇宙的人，所以你是创造娱乐给别人去玩这样子。好，那we will take a break and we'll continue to talk about the PCA. 镜头没开。